A Journey Through the Psalms. Notes for Reflection and Prayer, prepared by Heather Adams, Mike Taylor, Jill Elston, and David Brewster. We're going through a time of isolation in which many of us have a lot of time to spend alone with our own emotions. The Psalms seem made for such a time. They show a whole range of human reactions to different situations, some good reactions, some decidedly not good. In many of them we see the psalmist working through his own conflicted thoughts towards some kind of overall understanding. I think it's good that the Bible contains these compositions, which are honest, human, and often not on message. Contrary to previous generations, we don't have very much contact with the Psalms these days. They're almost never used as readings in our Sunday worship. And if they were, I guess the response at the end of some of them would be, "This is most definitely not the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God." The portrayal of God in the Psalms, and in many parts of the Old Testament, is a primitive, very human one. He is mysterious, capricious, sometimes dangerous, not always attentive. He has changing emotions. He can be argued with, pleaded with, and persuaded. When thinking about prayer, some might argue, why ask God to do these things if he is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful, all-caring? We're supposed to be thankful to God, but does that make any sense if it's all no trouble to him anyway? We might be awed by his works, as we might be awed by the CGI effects in a film, but can there be any wonderment at the extent of his power if he is omnipotent? In a philosophic view of God, prayer is shown as being of value for our sake, for our spiritual development, but it doesn't achieve anything more than that. That doesn't satisfy our natural view of prayer, in which we seek to reach out beyond ourselves in care for others. The Psalms teach us that we should give up any thought of a philosophic understanding of prayer and see it as a very human activity, and our relationship with God as like a human relationship with obvious differences. We know, on one level, that it makes no sense to try to persuade God, but in human relationships we do persuade and plead and thank and explain and apologize and everything else, and we believe that God comes to us on a human level. In these reflections, we will cover a range of psalms, including some of the bleak ones, not just the uplifting ones. Some will be relevant to our present situations, others won't, but may give you resources for what lies ahead. Some of the reflections consider what the writer was experiencing when they wrote. Others are the sparks of ideas that are generated by our contributors as they hear the words of the Psalms for themselves. Both are appropriate ways to respond when pondering these words. Before you read what our contributors offer, sit with each psalm yourself. Use them as part of your own prayers. Ask yourself, what is it saying? How does it make me feel? Do I ever feel like talking to God in that way? Whilst it is good to reflect on the Psalms, it's even better to say them out loud if you have the conditions that allow that.